Subscribe to the Mystic Vibrations Shock of the Hour program today and never miss another episode. The Shock of the Hour is a Radio Anu exclusive program produced every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By now, I am sure that you are aware that all our programs are packed with information, inspiration, mystic vibrations, as well as hot button topics. Every evening we enter into a different dimension, even if it is a part 2 of the previous program, whether it's history or mystery, biology or philosophy, domestic affairs or the locks of your hair. The mystic vibration is sure to bring something new and interesting to the table every evening. So never miss another episode again. Subscribe to the Shock of the Hour now. And don't forget your Kiswahili word of the day and your daily scientific fact. So, to subscribe, give us an email, priestisaac27@gmail.com, or call or WhatsApp us today. Area code 1268-728-3162. The Shock of the Hour. Never miss another program. And a special note to all our new subscribers. All our new subscribers will receive a special copy of the DVD documentary, full length, The Night of the Black Tiger, The Divinity of Marcus Messiah God. For this evening, I want to highlight again the Cosmic series, my brothers and sisters, the Cosmic Video Lecture Series. Remember that you need to definitely get your copies of the Cosmic, the 4-part video lecture series, the Cosmic series, The Heavens Declare the Glory. And I mean, it goes into the fullness of, from my perspective, I'm telling you, how astronomy meets theology, and how the study of astronomy and the understanding of even what they refer to as astrology really connects to theology and the understanding of the Most High and the understanding of the Almighty God, you know. So really, and of course, if you know me, even though they use the term astrology, I think all of that can be binded in perfectly in the study of astronomy in general. To me, it's just another wing of astronomy, you know. So we're going to go through the whole depths of the astronomical understanding of the heavens and the movements, specifically the movements of stars, sun, and moon and planets. And also, we'll have to go into certain aspects of the makeup of planets and our atmosphere and many different things, and prove to the listening audience the connection that we had with the original book, which is the heavens, not pen and paper, not walls, and the original book, which is the movements of that which is above us, the firmaments, as the 19th Psalm of the Bible itself says, which is a solar book itself. The heavens declare the glory, and the firmament show it the handiwork of the Most High. And day unto day is telling you something of high importance, and night unto night is giving you information and facts. There's no speech nor language where the voice is not heard. So keep in mind, I'm speaking of the Cosmic series, video lecture series, PowerPoint presentation, and it is set in such a way that everyone should be able to sit and not only full joy, but gather the wealth of information, knowledge, facts, and stats that will be coming out from this 4-part series, 4-part presentation. I'm talking about the Cosmic series. So all you have to do is to contact us via email, priestisaac27@gmail.com, and definitely inquire as it relates to the cosmic series, The Heavens Declare the Glory. As I said, astronomy meets theology. Oh yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to hear from you. So as I said, now we're going to go straight into the program for this evening. This is a previous recording we did, as I said, directly dealing with the young ones coming into consciousness and consider themselves becoming awoke. Definitely, I want you to listen to this presentation and full joy this evening. And of course, if you have not subscribed to the Shock of the Hour radio program itself, that is broadcast every evening from Monday to Thursday, and of course the recording itself is sent directly to your email, right in your inbox after the program is completed. If you're not a subscriber and you do not have the luxury of that service, all you have to do is contact us as well, priestisaac27@gmail.com, and we'll give you all the details in case you already don't know it. Do give thanks. Full joy this one. And greetings to each and every one. Salamta, very, very happy and joyous that you could definitely come and sup with us. And what we're going to do this evening, we want to definitely go into a subject area that is always controversial. It has to do directly with abortion. And I want to kind of focus in on one doctor's, if you want to say, testimony, one Dr. Livatino. And he was given a presentation or a lecture at the Students for Life at Virginia Tech, representing Students for Life of America. So he's a doctor, farmer, abortionist, and he will be speaking of some gruesome things, really, as it relates to the practice. I just want us to kind of pay attention to what he's saying, his details, and then we'll speak after such. I mean, as far as him, let's just listen.
So, why is this a big deal? It's a really big deal now with this whole Supreme Court nomination and all the stuff that's going on. And if anybody in this room, I hope no one in here is so naive to think that absolutely everything you have seen and heard in the press over the last 2 months about the Supreme Court nomination isn't totally and utterly about Roe versus Wade. That's what the whole thing is about. So why is this important? Why am I here? Why are you here? If you're pro-life, I understand how you feel. If you are pro-choice, I understand how you feel, because I was exactly the same for a very long time.
Listen to this.
But I want you to understand a little bit about me, perhaps, and how I got from one to the other. And then we're going to talk about this in general, but I really do welcome your questions and hope we can get a good discussion going. Okay, so what are we talking about at the basic root? I want you to imagine that you're an obstetrician gynecologist like me. And I want you to imagine that you are a pro-choice obstetrician gynecologist like I used to be. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 20 weeks pregnant. Now, if you could see her baby, which is very easy to do on an ultrasound, her baby would be as big as the length of your hand, from head to rump, from your middle finger to your wrist. That big. She's been feeling her baby kick for the last 2 weeks, but now she's asleep on an operating room table, and you're there to help her with her problem. You walk into an operating room scrubbed and gowned, and to the right of the table, of the operating table, there's a smaller table where your instruments are located. And the first thing you're going to reach for is a suction catheter. This is a 12 French suction catheter. I used to have a 14, but it disappeared. It's about 9 inches long. It's clear plastic. And I want you to picture yourself putting this up through the cervix, into the, through the vagina, through the cervix, and into the uterus, and then instruct your circulating nurse to turn on the suction machine. Now what you'll see is pale yellow fluid running through the tubing into the machine. That was the amniotic fluid that was there to protect the baby. Now if she were only, and I told you, a 20-week baby, head to rump, not counting the legs, is the middle of your finger to your wrist. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, measured from her last period, her baby would be, a 12-week baby is the width of your hand, head to rump, not counting the legs. And if she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, you pretty much could do the entire abortion with this one instrument. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. When you're done with that, you reach for your Sofer clamp, so you don't have to imagine when I brought one along. Now I will pass this around. I will pass around both these instruments. Everybody put up your right hand. I promise to give Dr. Levitino back his instruments at the end of the evening, all right? I don't want these to disappear. You can't get them. They're hard to get. It's really interesting. I went through airline security this morning. It gets them every time. Pulled my bag over. He went right for it, and he pulls it out, and he's looking at it, and he's going, "What is it?" So I said, "You really want to know?" And he said, "Yeah," and I told him what it is. I'm going to tell you what it is. You get your Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's stainless steel. And the business end, when you get a hold of this, look at it. It's about 2.5 inches long and 1/2 inch wide. And when you get this in your hands and look at it, you're going to feel it's a heavy clamp. And there are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E abortion, a second trimester D&E abortion, is a blind procedure. You can't see anything. It's all done by feel. So picture yourself, and I'm serious, picture yourself putting this up through the uterus. Be really careful, because the walls are thin and soft, and it is easy as pie to go right through them. Then grasp with the instrument. Grab hold of anything you can. You can't see what you're doing, just grab something. And feel yourself pulling, and I mean hard. And out pops the leg that big, which you put down on the table. Reach in again. Grab blindly. Pull hard. Now comes an arm the same length, which you put down on the table. And reach in with this instrument again and again and tear out the spine, the intestines, and the heart and lungs. Now, the head on a baby that size is about the size of a plum. And again, you can't see it. You have a pretty good idea you're there if you've got a hold of something and your fingers are spread as far as they'll go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the clamp and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Now you can pull out skull pieces.
Wow.
You have a bad day like I had a lot of times. Sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations. You just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose. You just made $800 cash in 15 minutes. I graduated from medical school in 1976, and I say that and it's scary. It's so long ago, okay? But I wasn't that long ago. I was sitting in the chairs just like you are. And if you asked me when I got out of medical school how I felt about the abortion issue, I would not have hesitated for a second to tell you that I was pro-choice. This is a decision between a woman, her doctor, and nobody, including the baby's father, has anything to say about it. A lot of people identify themselves as pro-life or pro-choice. But for a lot of people, it doesn't really affect their lives. But when you're an obstetrician gynecologist and you say, I'm pro-life or pro-choice, now this isn't just some vague political position or maybe decide who you vote for. You have to decide whether you're going to actually do those procedures. But I was pro-choice. So right along with, in my residency, learning how to do deliveries and hysterectomies and all the stuff that obstetrician gynecologists do, I learned to do abortions. We had a clinic in our hospital at the time. It was the late 70s. Technology was a little different then. And if patients were 12 to 13 weeks from their last period pregnant or less, we bring them in for suction D&C abortions. Now, a lot of first trimester abortions now are done with medications, But back then, suction D&C was the only method we have, and suction D&C is still the majority of first trimester abortions. And we would bring them into the hospital for their abortions. We believe it or not, we used to do the abortions in the delivery room. And when it was my turn to do them, I'd do 2, 3, 4 in the morning, never thought anything of it. If they were more than 13 weeks pregnant at the time, we would bring them back a few weeks later for what's called a saline abortion. These are not done anymore. They're technically dangerous. But just suffice it to say that these women have to go through labor, and it would take anywhere from 8 to 36 hours after the saline injections for them to abort their usually dead children. But hey, I was pro-choice. I was there to learn my trade. And it doesn't matter whether a doctor is pro-abortion or pro-choice or pro-life. Every doctor wants the same thing: happy, healthy patients.
Yeah.
Now, it was during my training that I was working one night, went down to the cafeteria for a break, and in my first year of training, and an attractive nurse came and sat next to me that I'd never met before, and she's the lady that I eventually married. Now, when we were dating, we made the first and biggest mistake we've ever made in our relationship. See, because I'm doing abortions, I'm pro-choice. She's pro-life. She doesn't think this is such a great idea. When she was in her nurse's training, now we were in New York State. New York State legalized abortion 3 years before Roe versus Wade. That was old news in New York by the time Roe versus Wade came along. And she was given an opportunity to learn to do abortion procedures, and she flat out said, "No, I'm not. I don't want to do that." And that was the end of it, she figured. But until we met, we started dating, and pretty soon found out we were on opposite ends of the issue. And this is when I said we make the biggest, dumbest thing you can ever do in a relationship. Instead of talking about it, instead of hashing it out, we just ignored it because it was easier. And that's a dumb, stupid thing to do in a relationship. We got married, and by that point we were, in our late 20s. We thought we were really old, and we wanted to have kids. So we decided to have a family of our own, and found out pretty quickly my wife had an infertility problem. We had an infertility problem, really. No kids. I sent her to the best infertility specialist in town. Now, you guys are pretty young, but any woman who's been through an infertility workup knows that it is difficult, painful, embarrassing. It's horrible. And it came down to, she'd already had one surgical procedure, and the physician who was taking care of her said, "Well, I'm going to do one last procedure. It should take about an hour and a half." And I can see the room, I can see the paint and the wallpaper, I can see him. And he walked out, and he said, when he walked out of the operating room 4.5 hours later, he came up to me and he said, "Look, I never tell anyone they're not going to be able to have a child, but don't count on it." We were devastated. I mean, I'm from a big Italian family. She's from a big Irish family. Having kids was something we wanted to do. It was something we talked about before we got married. Suddenly we realized we may not be able to have children. And after we got over that shock, we decided, well, we'll adopt a child. We love a child that doesn't necessarily somebody we birthed. So we went out and tried to find a child to adopt. And anyone who's tried to adopt a child finds out how difficult that is. We went to state agencies. We went to county agencies. We went to religious agencies. Every night I came home, we were trying to find one more phone number that we could call to try to find a child of our own, but no dice. The best we could do after over a year of effort was to get on a 5-year waiting list to get on the real waiting list. That was the best we could do.
Listen to this story.
And it was during this time that I had my first doubts about doing abortions. I'm not an idiot. I know one reason there's not many kids to adopt is guys like me who's doing abortions. And my reasoning was totally selfish. I remember literally, and again, I can remember the room as clear as we're sitting now here. And I'm in the middle of doing a suction D&C abortion in the delivery room, and I look down at these pile of body parts, and I was saying, gosh, wouldn't even one of these ladies allow us to take her baby home to care for our own? But it doesn't usually work that way. And the way things worked out was I had...
I don't want to be judging the speaker. No. I've already come to certain conclusions while listening, because I've listened to the whole lecture. And those who may not have heard the whole lecture, and I'm not going to run the whole lecture, but because I have, and I've, you know, as a natural psychologist, you tend to judge certain personalities. People listen to me and try to judge me because of whatever they think they hear. All sorts of things. They watch you and think they can judge you by just the way you walk and talk. You know. But to be honest, even the first time I was listening to this lecture here, when the doc said, I looked over at the pile of body parts. You know, remember he said he had 2 tables, you know. One for the patient, I'm telling you, and one for the other patient that came out of the bigger patient. So he was looking at the table for the second patient. He was looking at the pile of body parts. And I actually went before him, and my thoughts, I thought he was going to say, and looking at the pile of body parts, pardon me, I thought to myself, what am I doing? How could I do something so gruesome? He actually thought to himself at the time, wow, could some one of these people that came in here to have an abortion have the baby and give it up for adoption to me and my wife? That was his thought. You know? Not what is he doing here, you know, man. As if, oh man, look at all of this. This could have been my child. Okay. That's it. At least that's how I was looking at it, and I still look at it that way, and listening to him even throughout the whole interview or lecture. I don't really get a sense of the mentality is that much different. Yes, he said he's now pro-life. Before he was what they call pro-choice. These weird terms they try to give the stuff to make it sound cute. Cute it up. Man, that's murder. What pro-choice? That's murder, Rasta. Killing. Imagine that. Remember we did an abortion video. We have 2 abortion videos on YouTube. The traffic through those videos is not as much as other videos. And I remember just the other day I was watching the news, and some whistleblower in Facebook was coming out saying that Facebook purposely would detract people from coming to see certain videos and purposely not put them in the forefront and different things when they think that the ideology in the video is something that is going against their, you know, standing principles, whatever that may be, you know. So remember, if you are a listener and a follower, as they call themselves, of the works we're doing, you would recall several months ago, maybe a year now, when we put up the abortion videos for like 3 weeks or something, maybe about 2 weeks. The first abortion video, it was at maybe 100 and something. I can't remember, but if you go back into the archives, you'll hear everything. And the video was not moving, like the stats were not moving. And I purposely went and watched that video, the whole video, on different computers, different places. And when I came back and checked my stats, I said, look, the views are not moving. And then I did a video live on YouTube and said what I just said. And then all of a sudden the views started to go up. You understand? So that's to show you how serious the thing is, you know. And you may say, how did that fit in? I said a video on abortion. That's to show you how deadly abortion is. It's not no game, pro-choice and Roe and Wade. And no, man, this is murder. Millions of us have been killed before we came out of the matrix. Millions in this short time since Planned Parenthood and these criminal activities began. Hate speech alert. So let's continue to hear what the doctor says. He was looking at a pile of body parts and he was saying, oh man, if one of these people, anyone, you know what I mean? I see 100 maybe in a week or a month, any one of them, anyone could decide not to do this and give me their child. And he would accept the child and continue to do it. I mean, that's a weird way to think, man. That's a very, very strange way to think. And anybody that thinks like that, if they have not made a total 180 turnaround, I would still be very, very, very skeptical of them. What a way to think, man. In fact, let me repeat some of what he said there so you can get what I'm saying if you don't understand. The mind of man.
And it was during this time that I had my first doubts about doing abortions.
Listen.
I'm not an idiot. I know one reason there's not many kids to adopt is guys like me who's doing abortions. And my reasoning was totally selfish. I remember literally, and again, I can remember the room as clear as we're sitting now here.
Listen.
And I'm in the middle of doing a suction D&C abortion in the delivery room, and I look down at these pile of body parts, and I was saying, gosh, wouldn't even one of these ladies allow us to take her baby home to care for our own? But it doesn't usually work that way. And the way things worked out was I had what my wife credits as probably the best idea I've had in our entire 41-year marriage. And that was, I thought, this is stupid. We're beating our heads against the wall trying to deal with adoption agencies and the rest of these things. This is dumb. I know 50 obstetricians on a first-name basis. Let's advertise. Let's let them all know we're looking for a baby. And that maybe we'd get lucky and somebody would slip through the cracks and we'd be able to adopt a baby. And that's exactly what we did. We advertised. In August of 1978, I was working in the operating room with one of the attending physicians, and that stuff you see on TV is true. When you're sitting in one of those surgical get-ups, you can't touch anything but the instruments and the patient. You know what happened? Anybody here trying to get into medical school? I know this is an engineering college. Couple of people. Let me tell you what happened. Yeah. Let me tell you, the first time they put you in that get up and you can't touch yourself, everything starts to itch the minute they put it on. You learn how to ignore it. It's exactly how you deal with it. Anyway, I was scrubbed and gowned in that operating room doing a procedure with an attending physician, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and the circulating nurse was holding up a piece of paper, and it said, "Call Marcia as soon as you're done." Now, Marcia was the head of social services at Albany Medical Center where I was working, and she's one of the people we had talked to. That's all the note said, but I knew what it was. And sure enough, when I called her, she informed me that there was a 15-year-old girl in labor in the delivery room. She had had no prenatal care of any kind. The first time she'd ever seen a doctor during her entire pregnancy was the day before. But now she's in labor. Everything seems to be going along well. The baby looks healthy. She's willing to give her baby up for adoption. Are you interested? Well, hell yeah, I'm interested. I remember, again, literally staring at the face of the telephone to call my wife with this news and know that I was just 7 digits away from becoming a father. And literally, by the grace of God, in August of 1978, we were able to adopt a little girl that we named Heather. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We finally have a daughter. And after all the years, and after all the tears, and after all the doubts, we finally had a baby of our own, and my wife got pregnant the very next month. And our son Sean was born in July 1979. They were just about 10 months apart. Now, Sean and Heather were figuratively and literally close. Anybody who didn't know that Heather had been adopted would look at the two of them 10 months apart and go, 10 months apart? Man, you didn't give your wife much of a break, did you? But I had this proverbial millionaire's family. I've got a son and a daughter. This is great. And now we have kids. And any doubts I had about doing abortions simply evaporated, and I went back to business as usual. I graduated from my residency program in 1980, and we moved from Albany, New York, we moved down to the west coast of Florida for a year. We found out pretty quickly that a young couple with young kids in a retirement community didn't quite gel. So we left and went back to upstate New York a year later in 1981. And I joined a position that I had trained with. Now, Bill and I were practiced abortionists. Now, understand something. We were not running an abortion clinic. This is a routine OBGYN office like probably most women in this room have been to at one point or another. This wasn't an abortion clinic, but abortion is part of what we did. And in the early 80s, when I joined Bill, those of us in the abortion industry were looking for a better method of second trimester abortion. I talked about those saline abortions. Women going through labor for up to 2 days. This is difficult, painful, stressful, absolutely hard for the patients. No fun for the staff either. We wanted a method of abortion for the late termers that was like suction D and C. She could go to sleep, and when she woke up, it would all be over. And that's when suction D and E abortions, the one that I described, were developed. We saw an opportunity because not many doctors wanted to do that procedure. It's tricky. So we taught ourselves to do these second trimester D and E abortions. And we were accepting patients from other practices on referral to do these late-term abortions for them. Now understand, as I said, we were not running an abortion clinic. We did deliveries, hysterectomies, everything we always do. But over the next 4 years, I did 1,200 abortions. Over 100 were the late-term abortions that I talked about. But hey, life's good. Kids are growing. I finally can afford furniture. The practice is growing. Life's going on. All the things that you're looking forward to. And everything was just ducky, I thought, until June 23rd of 1984. June 23rd, 1984 was a Saturday. It was an absolutely beautiful day in Albany. It was sunny. It was warm. I was on call, but it wasn't too busy. I'd made rounds and got to spend the rest of the day with my family. We took the kids to an amusement park that afternoon. Heather was exactly 2 months away from her 6th birthday. Sean was a couple of days away from his 5th birthday. We went to an amusement park. We had dinner together. And that evening the kids were playing in the backyard, and we had friends coming over for cake and coffee. Our friends arrived. We started talking with them.
Listen.
And at 7:25 that night, we heard the screech of brakes out in front of our house.
Listen.
Kids had gone out in the road. Heather had been hit by a car. This is hard to talk about even after all this time. She was a mess. We went out and did everything we could. I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to be able to save people's lives. My wife was an intensive care nurse. This was our job. This was routine for us. But it made absolutely no difference, and she died in our arms in the back of an ambulance that night. Now, I know you're mostly younger people. There are a few older adults here. But if you have kids, I always tell groups when I speak to them, if you have children, you may think, even if you don't, you may think you have some idea of what that feels like. If you haven't been through this yourself, you have absolutely no idea what this feels like. And I pray to God you never find out. But what do you do after a disaster? You bury your child, you take a couple of weeks off, and then you try to get back in your life. And I don't know how long after it was that I was scheduled to do my first D&E abortion, but I showed up at OR number 9 at Albany Medical Center just like I had over 100 times before. This was nothing, this was routine. Obviously, I had other things on my mind. And the dedicated abortionist I took that Sofer clamp and I reached in and I ripped out an arm or a leg. And I just stared at it in the clamp. And I got sick. But you know something? Once you start an abortion, you can't stop.
I would expect that.
I talked before about stacking up body parts on the side of the table.
Listen.
This is not some gross story to freak people out at the lecture. When you do an abortion, you have to keep inventory. You have to make sure that you get 2 arms, 2 legs, and all the pieces.
Yep.
Because if you don't, your patient's going to come back infected, bleeding, or dead. So I soldiered on and I finished that abortion. And I promise you that everything I'm telling you is firsthand and true. For the first time in my illustrious career, for the first time I looked, I mean I really looked at that pile of body parts, that goo on the side of the table.
You know.
And all of a sudden, I didn't see her wonderful right to choose. And I didn't see what a great doctor I was helping her with her problem. And I didn't even see the $800 cash I just made in 15 minutes. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. And all of a sudden, this was looking very, very different to me. It occurred to me in that moment, looking at that pile of parts, that this woman had come to me and said, figuratively, never literally, here's $800, kill my baby. And I was the kind of person that would look her right back in the eye and say, why, sure, I'll do that, no problem. Needless to say, we were in a bit of a crisis. I told you that the biggest mistake we ever made was not hashing this out when we first met. And we'd been married over 5 years at that point. And it was a very, very difficult time because the problem is when you stop talking about one important issue in your relationship, you've learned it's easy to avoid other issues as well. And we've been drifting apart. But now everything got torn wide open. I got into a blame game. I'm feeling bad. So I got into a blame game. It's the girl's fault for getting pregnant. It's the nurse's fault for scheduling the procedure. It's the hospital's fault for allowing them. Of course, and I'm no different than anybody else. It's everybody's fault but mine. And my wife always knew when I had abortions the next day just from the way I was acting. Well, after a couple of months from this, she'd had it up to there. As I told you, I'm full-blooded Sicilian. She's full-blooded Irish. We had arguments. Trust me, they were cool. All right? But at this point, she'd had it. And unbeknownst to me, she'd already packed a bag, and she was 2 minutes away from walking out. But she was going to have her say. That is my wife. And she did. You stupid idiot. It's not the girl's fault. It's not the hospital's fault. It's not the nurse's fault. It's your fault. You dumb fool. No, if you feel so bad about this, why don't you just quit? That was the icebreaker. And we ended up talking for an hour and a half about a lot of issues, including the abortion issue. And thankfully, she decided not to walk out. I went to my partners the next day and announced that I would no longer do any late-term second trimester D&E abortions. We used to do them up to 24 weeks. A 24-week baby is, the length of your hand is 20, add another 50%, that's 24. They grow fast at that stage. I said I would no longer do any more of the late-term D&E abortions. It was just too difficult. And my partners understood at first. And I told them, look, I was hard-headed. I was saying, I'm just going to do the little ones we do in the office up to 10 weeks. And for another couple of months, I soldiered on and did those. Wow. And I know you look up to physicians. I know a lot of people respect physicians. We're no different than you. It sounds so stupid to sit up here and tell you this. I'm a professional. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I do all this stuff, right? Once you figured out that killing a baby this big for money is wrong, it doesn't take you too long not here, to realize that it doesn't matter if the baby is this big or this big or this big or maybe even this big. It's all the same. And it was February 1985. I'm ashamed to say it was that long. I went to my partners a second time and I told them I would no longer do any more abortions. I haven't done one since then, and I never will. But that's what it took for me to personally understand exactly what I was doing. And when somebody goes, I'm pro-choice, then I hope they understand exactly what it is that they're championing. That's part of the reason why I'm here. Now, this is one of the most divisive issues in our country. The only issue that even comes close to being this divisive in our country was slavery back in the 1800s. This is the big divisive issue of the 20th now into the 21st century. So, let's test your abortion knowledge. Somebody answer my question. How late in pregnancy is it legal to perform an abortion? What? Day of, up to the day of birth. Anybody argue with that?
You hear that?
Seriously?
Listen good.
Go ahead.
I thought because when they get to the third trimester, it's not allowed. I mean, the audio is not that great from the audience, so I'm just saying that to you.
Or it's like not allowed.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Do you I know most of you are not in medicine. Trimesters. How long is a woman pregnant?
Listen to this.
9 months, right? Except no doctor ever talks months. It's too wishy-washy, okay? How many weeks are there in a month? Well, 4.
Oh my, listen to this.
Well, 9 times 4 is 36, but in reality, women are pregnant for 40 weeks. So it's either 10 months, you see how confusing it gets? So doctors never talk about months. We count from the last day of your period. Yes, we know you weren't pregnant back then, but it's something we can point to. And all the machines, everything's calibrated for date from last period. And a woman is pregnant for 40 weeks.
And this is why we praise the life giver, you know, man, and the keeper of life. And I'm very happy that I came across this information here in my research. And I think that those of us who take abortion like it's a simple thing, and that's the thing, you know, we grew up in a society, and I will always come back to this, we grew up in a society that is set in a way, it's a system set in a way for us to psychologically get dumbed down. So you hear about abortion, and that's why you would hear me come out on terms like you're pro-choice and you're pro-life and pro-choice and all of that. It makes it sound simple when it's really something extremely deadly. Listen to how the fella says he put that big clamp inside the woman and start to pull out hands and start to pull out fingers and start to pull out face. The man says sometimes a face would look back at you. What kind of mentality is this? And you see, we don't comprehend, you know. The mind of a child is mystic. That's why when I lecture to people and I tell them to continually read and grow their vocab, I would even show them that a child within the first couple of years of its life, it will learn about 5,000 words in the first couple of years. A regular adult doesn't learn 5 new words in a year. So that means that we are not reading enough, we're not exploring enough, we're not expanding enough. So psychologically, also we are left numb and dumb. So a child coming into the world, like a sponge, sucks up the culture. Not just A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3, but the culture. And the culture right now is that killing a child before it's born, it's okay. That's the culture. The culture right now is to literally do that which is against nature sexually. That as well is okay. It's the norm. Nothing wrong. Do what you like. You know what I mean? Make sure you feel good. And that's the law. And that is so terrible. Look at what millions, we don't really sit and check the stat. I heard one individual quote some stats a day. And I was like, wow, because on the news, not the news necessarily, but from the mainstream, you don't get this sort of figures. One researcher, one scholar said at least 19 million unborn babies have been aborted since people have been doing this sort of abortion. Do you know just yesterday, Just yesterday, an individual was telling me about a friend that he has in Jamaica. And he said that his friend in Jamaica, his father had him when he was 96 years old. And he was saying that his father was like a bushman in the village in Jamaica. He's passed on now. And his father, he passed on, I think, at 111 or something. And his father now was, any woman that had problem with birth, and even the man that had problem, his father obviously would know how to remedy that, and other ailments and sickness. Now he said that his father also used to perform abortions. And I was like, what? Abortion? So now you see, this is why now I would say before, remember we were talking about words. And I was saying it's a travesty sometimes how we just take one word and apply it to something else and think that we could just use the word, willy-nilly, as we would say in the Caribbean, like the word slavery. We just spin the word around and, the African slavery, and then you're going to tell me people still in slavery now, but you can't. People are going through things, but you can't compare that. Nearly can't compare that to what we went through. So abortion now. Okay, abortion, to abort, yes. Abortion, to abort, yes. So he used to do that. How did he do that? Did he take a clamp? Number one, did he take a clamp and go inside of the woman and rag out parts? Well, no, because that's what I asked, No, man, no, not like that. The 6-6 bush, there's a certain bush that they have around here, they call it the 6-6 bush, eh? And apparently it only grows in cemeteries, but I think I've seen it grow in other places, not unless people are buried around where I saw it growing. But anyway, that is known to be able to abort babies. I mean, there's certain things a woman don't really drink, man, when she's pregnant, especially in the early stage or stages or any stage. Bitter herbs, neem, dandelion, aloes. Women are not supposed to really drink these things when they're in their early state of pregnancy. Even when they're cycling, is after the cycle you cleanse out with these bitter herbs and you wash out the womb and all of that. So a woman must be careful what she take in. A lot of people are not aware that even when a woman may have a miscarriage, especially in that early stage, she loses a child. It may be something that she put in or ingested, whatever she drank or ate. It could be that reacted with that young little fetus there just catching itself, that little clot, that little thing coming, cells multiplying. So he would do that. He would give them that wash out, no clamps. So then I said, so that means obviously it would have to be at an early stage. And the answer was, of course, man, at a very early stage, just the missing of the period and whatever. And he would know me personally, that's a very touchy subject, to wash out anybody at whatever stage, especially when it happened, whether it's your mistake or your misunderstanding. You were not raped. If you were not raped, and even when you rape, sometimes I goes wonder boy. But let's just put the rape aside just for this conversation. If somebody didn't rape you, brother, well, not brother, pardon me, sister. I mean, wow. Well, if somebody didn't rape you, sister, whether brother or sister is wrong, but if somebody didn't rape you and you are with child, you should not kill the child. Even if it's just a few hours conceived, you should not do that. Even if you say, boy, I don't know, and you're just going to take a chance. All the morning after pill, them is abortion. Because you may be pregnant and you're going to take a morning after pill, and kill the next Malcolm X. You're going to take a morning after kill, a next morning after pill, and lick out the next Rosa Parks and the next Queen Nanny. No more Santi Walker. You take a morning after pill and they're selling by the millions daily. Yeah, more, and then the condom and the condemn. Anytime I talk about condom and condemn, especially in front of an audience, people always ask me, so what you do? I mean, well, what is this? What you want to know my business? I want to know what you do. I mean, do about what? I mean, so wait. When they invent condom, brother, what you do? I ain't gonna give you no long lecture on that. When the time comes for me to tell you what I do, I guess I'll tell you what I do. You know what I mean? But the point is that the abortion can come in some different ways, some different fashions, some different aspects, you know. So this aspect though, and this little lecture that the doc gave was quite gruesome to some degree. And it makes you really understand how serious this thing is. This is not a joke. He even mentioned down in the lecture, for example, he's saying that there was this doctor that he knew personally. I think they gave us some kind of name, some sort of, either Dr. Death or something they called him. And he only did these late trimester abortions. He didn't do no early stuff. He killed your baby when your baby was already sucking its thumb in the womb. So he had this, you know, he was notorious for being like a real killer, and he has killed tens of thousands, some kind of big number, right in the same lecture. Then he said, now, this is the doctor that we were listening to a moment ago. He said that his friend, Dr. Death, that killed so much of babies, not in their young stage or in the womb, you know, but ready to come out. That's all he do. And he don't collect no $800. He may be going for the thousands. That's all he does. Don't bring no little fetus to him. He want them again when they're sucking their finger and they're already kicking down the womb. That's when he kill them. And he said somebody came into a church and killed him. This is what the doctor said. Somebody came into a church and killed him. And he expressed so much remorse over that. As if, listen to him, the person that killed Dr. Death obviously did not understand what it really means to be pro-life. I say, wow. Wow. And you're not going to hear me say, nobody going to try to charge me for saying that he right to go kill the man. But I surely ain't going to shed no tears. Because in my book, somebody need to do that. That's how I look at life, that this man ain't have no mercy. No mercy. Even the brother that's speaking here, he may have changed his life. But when he was doing that, he has no mercy. It's like a man that just walks in your house and bam, 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 kill you, your father, your mother, your little baby, everything, and take a little $300 out of the glove compartment or whatever, or the bedroom, whatever. That's all they get. And they go home, wipe off the blood on their shirt and eat a hamburger and sit down with their children. They have people that live like that. I don't know where their heart is. It must be in the refrigerator, because I mean, they're cold. So anybody that does this, you gotta be cold. When the Honorable Priest Kailash speaks about his time in medical school and when they go through the hospitals and they used to cut, as he liked to refer to it, as the cadavers open and handle a heart and handle a this, and he says he see people perform operation and have a sandwich out. He said he don't understand how they did that. And that's one of the main reasons that pulled him out of that whole pharmaceutical world. So-called medical world, surgical world. I could understand. This is mayhem. So that is why I said, not really living on the fella's character, Dr. Speaker there a moment ago, but when you can perform this sort of act, if you don't take a total 180, for example, when the fella went and killed Dr. Death, he was supposed to say, well, I wouldn't say he was supposed to say, but I would expect something more like, you know, even if you think he should, just like what I said, even if you think, you know, you don't want to sound like you're promoting nobody killing nobody. But I'm sure he prevented Dr. Death from killing at least 2 or 3 other people. Yeah. And there's always somebody that is there to perform the abortion, you know. That is true. That is true. And that is why those of us now in the black community would say, oh, I'm still going to buy from the Chinese and the Koreans. I know they don't like me, but me alone can't do anything. But one
does full the basket. Yeah. But anyway, give thanks. Enough said. Give thanks for your presence with us. As I always say, if you know your Bible and you do not know your history, the knowledge of your Bible will become a mystery. And obviously, it takes some real eyes to realize these real lies that are amongst us. Kedas Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah.
That teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will include. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will include. They gave leadership to our foreparents and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own to make ourselves free men. Our great scholars have advanced through the colleges and universities, have thrown away the blessed record. Babylon did it. Assyria did it. France under Napoleon did it. Germany under Prince von Bismarck did it. England under America under George Washington did it. Africa with 400 million black people can do it.
Alafia to each and every one. Salamta and blessed love. Honorable Priest Isaac here. It is with great joy that I am happy to announce to you that I have officially released my first ebook, Anno Ancient and Modern Revisited. This is the continuation process of our easy-to-read books. Within the pages of Anno Ancient and Modern Revisited, we take the time to show you the spiritual connection with the island of Antigua and Heliopolis in Kemet in Egypt, with the island of Antigua and the legendary continent of Atlantis. We also highlight Green Castle Hill, also known as Mount Anu, which is known as the Stonehenge of the Caribbean, with the countless of megaliths that align with the movement of the heavens. This is a must-read for all those who are students of the esoteric realms, astronomy, geology, and ancient sites. Of course, to get a copy of your book, all you have to do is to contact us at area code 1268-728-3162. Call, text, or even WhatsApp. Or you can email us at priestisaac27@gmail.com to get a copy of your ebook, Anno Ancient and Modern. It is an easy to read book, may appear light, but it is extremely heavy.